Let's go and see how the different Paulownia trees that we planted here inside of the farmyard are looking. And there are some thermals going off as always, so if the sound is a little bit weird at these moments, that is why. My intention is to have a look at each one so that we can also count them. So there's this one here, and I like to give a few remarks. So despite the fact that this gets watered, this one is somehow lagging behind, while the other one there is a lot taller. Basically the same amount of water, but probably a difference in the soil. That one there at the corner is also lagging behind, but this one here is the one that is the smallest of the bunch. This one here, together with the other one, they had been lagging behind. They were a bit yellowish in the beginning, and also the other plants around, the ones for biomass. And the yellowness disappeared when they got more water. Keep in mind, we don't have an irrigation system, so we made do with what we have, and we continue to do this in this fashion until we have a proper irrigation system. We are working on that, and soon the first parts will show up, but right now this is just makeshift to get something going. So here is the next one. It's okay-ish, but given the one left of it, it is still lagging behind. I have no idea why this one there, and it's the only one, is so tall. So something must be going on in its favor. I assume that the soil there is a lot looser further down, because I remember we dug a trench here very early on. It was an attempt to bury a water line, and probably it reached into this soil that is a lot looser than the surroundings. And for everybody else, we used the excavator and loosened up the soil maybe 50 centimeters up to a meter deep, and then there is the compaction. So it might be that this one there is just lucky. So there is that one, and over there, and they have not received their water yet, so they are showing these signs of hanging leaves. I will water them in a moment, but that's the thing. If you don't have this automated, then this happens. But they're pretty sturdy. They will get their leaves erect in a moment once they receive the water. And of course it is pretty hot, so not sure if we're already at 40, but we're definitely close. So it does feel hot, and that's also why there are these thermals. So that one here is a little bit better, and then we have this one there, which is also kind of small. But here's another small one that sits here all alone, but it's making progress every time it gets the water. And now let's loop around. So here we have, there's one which is looking pretty okay, and then we have that one here. There's also a detail, so those that sit here on that side gets watered with a hose from there, and the other ones on there, they get watered with a hose that is connected there. You can see a blue thing with that hose. So that's basically the same area, but two different sources. Eventually the water comes from the same place, but still this is how it goes. It's easier to move the hose around. So, and then we have this one here. This sits pretty close to the house, and once the sun has come around, then this sits in shade. So this one only gets the sun from early morning on, and then when the sun begins to set, but most of the time, because the sun is so high, it is definitely receiving sunlight. You can see the plants further there. They are already in the shade because of the house. So when the sun is in the south, then there's shadow. So, and then we have this one here. And all around I made a lot of cuts to have biomass on the ground and the trees more exposed. So here is this one. And then we have one in here. These things have been cut, but they have been growing again. And there is one that shares its place with a pretty good looking tomato plant. And these tomatoes are beginning to have a fruit body. So I now need to figure out how to get to the other side without stomping on the tomato, so probably in between here. So there is another tomato plant, and there is one more tree that we have in here. Then there's that one lagging behind also. This is a pretty nice one. Sits there at a corner but somehow manages. And there, where the dog is drinking water, we have a leak there, but this leak helps to provide water to the plants there to the right. But it does not provide water very far because of the compaction of the soil there. But some are reaching it, but not most of them. So, and then finally here in this patch, let me turn around. There's that one there at the corner. They have been sitting in a shadow by the other plants, and I had to remove a little bit. And you can see in the case of this one, the removal of the shadow helps. So this is now starting to grow. So those were the ones here in this area. So next, let's have a look at these ones. These were not planted this year, but the year before. And you can see how they are looking. They are now definitely looking like a tree. So there's a trunk, and it has also a wood color. So they are quite nice. I just turned on the sprinkler drip irrigation for this group of trees. That's the sound you might have heard. And there is one, for some reason, it is lagging behind. It got cut involuntarily, but it's coming back up. So with some water, this should definitely work. Angela has not been able yet to cut down all the other things for biomass, but this will now happen. And then this area should be a lot nicer, because you see that things are very tall. What is impressive is that this one here, it's a weed of some sort. I believe that is the pigweed, I'm not sure, but this is definitely extremely tall. So this is also an interesting data point. So where we have seed of this stuff, and apparently we have it all over the place, given that we water enough, this could easily replace the biomass factory in the form of sun, hemp and friends. So that's an option. And speaking about that, here's a lot of ragwort, which of course is not what we like to cultivate, but as you can see, there is a lot of seed of this plant. And of course now, if we delay the cutting further, we will have more seed, but it's there anyway. So the fact that we irrigate here allows this plant to come up. So it's not that we don't have it here, we have it a lot, but due to the lack of water during summer, this has never shown up. So this is a very interesting point. My hope is that when we have a Miyawaki forest, the natural succession will take care of it, so that it will be suppressed, hopefully. we will see. And one thing that comes to my mind at the moment, speaking about this, I understand that this is toxic for ruminants. But what about the birds, like geese, for example? Will they eat it and it does anything to them, or are they smart and know that this is toxic and they will avoid it? Not sure. Would be interesting to know. So now speaking about the trees, they are again a little bit on the yellowish side. It has been very hot the last few days, but the water is provided every second day, and that should be okay. The tree somehow knows how to regulate itself. So let's see. There are a few behind. So there's one here, then there's one behind, then in the back there is the one that came back. To show you this in more detail, I need to loop around, and then there is another one. So that makes it 1, 2, 3, 4 trees that you see here. And then we have 5, 6, 7 and 8 behind. So I will now go to the other side of the yurt and show you that from there. So I'm now on the other side. My count wasn't off. And this is how this emergent jungle looks like. And I definitely hope that Angel gets around to cutting this thing on the next opportunity, which should be Monday. So, and then we have also from the group of the older ones, the tall one here, which is very impressive how it grows. I believe it has found a relationship, a symbiotic relationship with the oak tree next to it. Somehow it finds water, because the water down there is not visible anymore. So let me find my way over there to show you this. So it is moist because there's some greenery, but you can also see how it ruptured. So there is water, not that far away from the surface, but it's definitely not standing anymore. It dropped at I think 3 weeks ago. So this is not our water level anymore. So we are below 350 now. And here you can see what a little mistake can cause. So that hose got disconnected from this because of the pressure. It is now bright and sunny, and the solar pump provides a lot of pressure, and I forgot to close it over there, and therefore I got to create this spill. Of course it will be helpful for some plants, but as you can see it is outside of the planted area, so it will help the other ones, but it's okay. So here in the future dog enclosure we have a number of Paulownia trees. I show you them one by one, and as before mentioned, if there is something special. These here at the very end also suffered a little bit from being shaded out when they were a little smaller, so I cut it away, the other stuff, quite early, but they are developing well. Some, like this one, are a little bit taller, and the area here was also prepared with the excavator the same way as the other place, but of course it is the soil as it is, so we did not add any compost or anything else, so we just loosened it up. This one here we lost, and it's a total loss. Probably, yeah, not probably, they are the ones. The dogs got in there, and when this tree was very, very little, they destroyed it, and it never came back. Then we have the one next to it, which is looking very good. That one got also toppled over by the dogs, but you see it came back. This one is very nice, one of the taller ones. Here we have another case of being destroyed by the dogs, but it does come back. I need to cut away a little bit the weed around it, so that it is definitely not shaded out. they seem to be susceptible at being shaded out. And then we have a tall one right next to it. Oh, well, I think this one and the neighbor over there are the two tallest ones here in this strip. This strip, by the way, is a prototype of the idea that I have to plant a new forest in strips. And of course this is a very early version of this, and future strips are going to be wider because the wobblers apparently irrigate a circle of 10 meters in diameter, maybe a bit more, depends on the pressure. So this is a lot narrower. And then we have two more that also have been struggling a little bit, and then I cut away the companions and they are now replaced with wheat. So the idea to sow sun hemp over top before cutting, and then it might germinate. This did fail, the birds got to it. I have been investigating, but I'm lacking the answer from that company, to find someone who's able to turn seed into pellets so that the seed is inside of a clay ball, and that seemed to be interesting. I need to probably call them on the phone. I wrote them an email, but they have not responded. That can sometimes happen with some companies around here. But they were recommended by the seed supplier, so they must be doing something good to earn this, this reputation. So I will follow up on this, but now that we are getting into the cooler part of the year, then this is not so important. This is something for spring next year. And now here on the other side, in this future garden area, we have two Paulownias here at the beginning. They were planted last year together with the Sunhab and Friends mix. Most of the trees that we had got shaded out, but those at the edges, they survived and they have been coming back. And that what you see is the growth since spring of this year. So they were non-existent, only the roots, and that is what you have. There are more in the background. I will loop around and then come to them. And this one there, the tallest one, is also from last year. So newly planted Paulownia trees we can find over here. So let's start with the corner case here. That one was struggling, and now with more water, you see how the sprinkler impacts here. This has been coming back. It is a two-trunk version, and as this is for biomass and stuff, I don't mind, it's not a problem. We might chip this one in the future and stick with that one here. So then we have this one here at the beginning, between the corn. The corn is a failure, but it doesn't really matter because every bit of biomass counts, and those were seeds from an envelope that was quite old, and I wasn't sure if they were still viable or not. So then we have tall one there and one to the left of it. Here again we have one that is somehow lagging behind. It might be because of the water. What I should mention here in this area we added compost that came out of the product made by Sakahawea over there. So horse manure with straw that fermented for a while, and we mixed this in here with the mineral only soil that came out of the pond. So from digging out, so it's definitely not topsoil. And we added some organic components by mixing this with the straw and manure combination. So, and we also have some tomatoes over there that are growing very nicely. And I see they are now also making fruit bodies. People have been worried in this area. talking about that the tomatoes are not appearing. Now they are. So there we have another Paulownia, another tall one there, and a very tiny one here at the corner. Probably same issue. When the sprinkler irrigates from over there, this sits in the shadow of the other one and would require to irrigate here again using a hose. But at the time being, I have so much other things to do that I can't really keep up with that. And the guys were busy all the time. And now that the bovines are gone, this from Monday on will change, because now there is no herd of animals to attend to, and so therefore the focus can be now on the plants. And the farm chore in the morning to provide feed to the remaining animals, which is basically Sakarawaya and the dogs, that's not a big thing. So we should now be able to really pivot and focus on the new thing. So here there are two more and a smaller one there. And that is the strip on this side of the future garden. Now let me loop around and show you the ones there. But before I do, let me turn around again and show you one more. So here at the edge there is a Paulownia tomentosa, which is a variant. This is the ornamental one. It grows a lot slower than the other ones that are hybrids of Paulownia elongata. So this is here for ornamental purposes, and hopefully it turns into a big tree. As you can see, it gets irrigated with that hose here. This is not a drip line, it is open at the end. So we just open it, let it flow for a while and then close it again. But you can see it definitely suffered from the high temperatures that we had. I'm not going to count the ones that are there in B1 because they are a lot older and mostly sustain themselves. Here and there we need to drip irrigate a little bit to help. But I'm not counting these because I want to show you only what we planted over there in the farmyard at the beginning of this year. So there are the other ones, 3 in total here on this edge, and as you can see they are hanging their leaves. Yeah, they're letting their leaves hang down, and that must be temperature water related. Yesterday they received an ample amount of water each one, but it is difficult to keep up. Something like pulse irrigation would be great, but we can't do this just yet, and that is why we will install a proper irrigation system here in this area first. So I should mention that we have received information from the Seneca distributor, and they're very helpful. No need to do an experiment, they can calculate exactly what we need based on the data that we provide. So that's a lot easier. So here is one more, and then we have that one and the ones that I mentioned before here at the edge. So my intention is now to add some overlay, some text overlay, and count them so that I can answer the question, how many Paulownia trees do you have? And I can say that amount in the farmyard. And by the way, there is a little pond forming because of the excess water from the irrigation. This is because the soil there is extremely compacted, as the backhoe was driven back and forth there all the time. Soon we will add more material, and then this should be loosened up by plants. We only planted here in this back part our soil making mix, and we will do this over there as well. We can do this until very late. So when this patch was first seeded with soil making mix, the first time, that was in September. And this is now the second time that something is growing here in this area.